Yep folks, it's another dual cab 4x4 ute, but not as you know it. It's a GWM Cannon Alpha Ultra, it's from China, and it's a petrol-electric hybrid. So is this the start of something new and important, or is it just a sideshow? Let's investigate. China's GWM has been around in Australia for a few years with the Cannon Ute, but this is its bigger brother, the Cannon Alpha, which tops off its lineup with the hybrid in addition to the usual diesel models. It's the first hybrid to launch in the booming Aussie ute segment, and with new emissions laws on the way, it won't be the last. BYD and Ford will soon up the ante with plug-in hybrid utes, and while LDV already has a pretty basic and forgettable EV ute here, better examples of the zero emissions breed will land eventually too. As is typical of Chinese brands, the GWM Cannon Alpha is very competitively priced. The Ultra is the flagship and starts just below $65,000 drive away. As a showroom proposition, this thing will just blow people away. The Cannon Alpha has a 7-year and unlimited kilometre warranty, 7 years roadside assist and 7 years cap price servicing. GWM just hasn't released the cost yet. The Cannon Alpha is 35mm longer than the Cannon, 57mm wider, 38mm taller, and has a 120mm longer wheelbase. Its size increase over the top-selling Ford Ranger is even more substantial. Add in lashings of chrome, 18-inch alloys, side steps, roof rails and LED headlights, and it's also pretty imposing. Under the bonnet, you're going to find a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo petrol engine. Yep, no turbo diesels here. It combines with an E-motor to produce some really impressive power and especially torque numbers. Now further down the drivetrain, you're going to find a 4x4 system and high and low range for serious off-roading. GWM makes the point that this hybrid system is more about performance and economy. That might explain why the fuel consumption claim isn't super impressive. More impressive is the 3,500 kilo braked towing capacity. I don't think I've ever sat in a 1-ton ute that just feels as opulent as this. I don't know if I like it the most, but it certainly gives off that sense that any buyer's getting lots for their money here. Get past the big screens, garish dashboard trim and the grille emblazoned in ambient lighting across the piano black in front of the passenger, and things do seem to be well screwed together. Check out the smooth action of the wireless charging compartment cover and this neat little sliding storage container under the armrest. Nice touches. Storage is just not going to be a problem in this vehicle. There's a logical place to put your phone, different size holes for different size cups, and a chili bin in the center console. The awkward reach to the USB ports down here is the clunkiest bit. The way the infotainment touchscreen and the digital instrument cluster present is a bit weird. This huge screen bursts out of the dashboard. The instruments are sort of implanted within it. Some car companies, BMW and Hyundai do it really well, have a single pane of glass and the 2 screens in behind it. That seems to work. Once you acclimatise, it mostly works reasonably well, but you still have to drill into the screen to change the aircon temps, and there's no way on the dashboard to change the volume. Both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are offered with the Cannon Alpha Ultra, and they can be connected by cable or wirelessly. The size and resolution of the screen is spectacular. It's hard to think of any desirable infotainment feature that's missing from the Ultra. It's even retained AM radio, which is important in the Aussie countryside. The digital instrument cluster only gives over a small amount of its space to the speedo, and there's no tacho. You get 2 views on offer. One shows you a representation of the traffic around you, which seems of limited value, and the other one is a satellite navigation map, which is probably more helpful. This quite possibly is the best reversing camera system I have ever seen. It's so big and so clear, and there are several cool options including this transparent view. Really helps lining this big sucker up in a parking space. Yep, no shortage of safety tech in this vehicle. GWM is also confidently predicting a 5-star ANCAP result. We'll let you know when the result of testing is announced. It wasn't that long ago I was complaining about the dud deal rear seat passengers get in dual cab utes. Well, this thing is luxurious in its space. A long trip might not leave you crippled. Check this out, a wireless charging pad. But that's just the entree. Power reclining outboard seats. And there's some nice detailed touches too, like these under-seat storage bins and these USB ports. And now to the tray and the Cannon Alpha's biggest party trick. I'm really excited to show this to you. Okay, but there's more. Ta-da! How good is that? Once you choose how to open the tailgate, you'll find the tray is not that spectacular. It's got a relatively modest 735 kilo payload, and there isn't enough space between the wheel arches to fit a standard Aussie pallet. Okay, that's enough about carrying stuff. Let's find out how the big fella goes about carrying people. It's time to hit the road. Okay, first impressions from behind the wheel. Big comfy seat, reach and rake adjustable steering, big left footrest at the correct angle, and it's a great viewing platform to see the road and your environs. They're all positives. What a pity then the car is constantly telling you what a bad driver you are. It's snatching at the steering wheel, it's telling you to keep your eyes on the road. There's a bing coming from somewhere, I don't even know what it means. Anyway, the good news is all this stuff is switchable, either every time you get in the car or permanently, but it's just so annoying and unnecessary. Get past the things that are distracting you, that actually should be stopping you from getting distracted, and we can talk about the powertrain, which is obviously a centerpiece of the car. It's got some pretty impressive power and torque numbers, and really the performance is good. The acceleration is strong, but there's no way this thing's got more torque than a Ranger Raptor. Even taking into account its 2.5 ton curb weight, it just doesn't feel that strong. It also sounds very different to a normal dual cab ute. It's a quiet, sort of reedy sort of soundtrack when it's accelerating. No diesel clatter at all. That's a good thing. Another thing that's obvious too is there needs to be some work done on throttle modulation, like especially at low throttle percentages. You sort of go little, nothing, little more, little something, then little more again, and boom, away you go. Wheel spin and all a little bit uncontrolled. Of course, you've also got sometimes when it'll just roll away as an EV. Now the ride and handling could also use some work. Ride's a bit soft in the rear, and there's a constant patter on what even appear to be smooth surfaces. The steering's ponderous, no surprise considering how big and heavy this vehicle is. There's also a noticeable amount of understeer, again, no surprise considering what type of vehicle this is, but also we've got a lot of stability and traction control intervention. Like if you're trying to accelerate from gravel onto bitumen and turn at the same time, this thing just simply won't move. It just kind of crawls onto the road and will not accelerate. So let's circle back to the powertrain just for a minute, because we're getting some indications on where our fuel consumption's at, and the numbers are getting up towards 11.9 to 12 litres per 100, which is not really that competitive in the segment against all those diesels. Now we haven't towed, we haven't hauled a load, we haven't gone seriously off-road, so that means that number's only going to get higher. All up, the Cannon Alpha's driving experience doesn't back up the great impressions it makes standing still. And let's just touch on off-roading for a moment. As already mentioned, this vehicle has a lot of substantial features to help it get just about anywhere sensible in the rough stuff. You can start in high range 2-wheel drive, go to high range 4x4, and then dip into the low range for the tough stuff. Want to get really serious, and the dual diff locks help you there. This does an 800mm weighting depth. We've tested the Cannon Alpha Ultra Hybrid solidly, and so far it's shown itself to be a pretty competent off-roader. It's getting up there in size, of course, and that throttle modulation issue we've already mentioned on-road doesn't help it off-road either. So there you have it. Australia's first petrol-electric hybrid dual-cab ute is very well priced, very well equipped, spacious, and has really impressive off-road ability. But as impressive as the GWM Cannon Alpha Ultra is, it's still not the complete dual-cab 4x4 ute. GWM needs to address the details, get the chassis tuning right for local conditions, make the throttle response smoother so the car is easier to drive, dim down those driving aids that are just too intrusive and annoying. Get all that right and this would be such a better vehicle. Really, it's just in the details. That's what's separating this vehicle from being a good buy and a great buy. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more videos and don't forget to tell us what you think in the comments below.